All right, welcome back to Brain Dump number 3. I'm your host Hunter, and this is a bit of a podcast slash rambling podcast where I basically just turn the mic on, turn the camera on, and then go off. So if you guys haven't seen the last two, check them out. Technically, this is the fourth one. I didn't actually publish the third. I uploaded it, saw that the quality wasn't that good, and I wasn't too excited about really what I chatted about. It was 22 minutes, and there's something. Honestly, I have to re-listen to it. I kind of just put it on the back burner. If you've been following along, you know that I've been slacking. I haven't uploaded in the last 2 to 3 weeks, maybe 4. I've been busy, but not busy enough to say that I haven't been able to make the time to do this recording. So it's more of a motivation thing and discipline. When you're trying to learn a new skill set, it's really hard to break through and commit to doing it week over week. So I apologize. I'm learning. I'm getting better. So I'm making the time today to sit down and chat with you guys. I've had a busy couple of weeks. Went surfing in Tofino, did a camping trip in Maple Lake, probably some other cool things that I don't remember, but that seems busy to me. So that was a good time to go out there to Tofino, as I have never surfed before. And it was a great time, very difficult, I might add. So the people that can surf, props to you. It's a skill set that takes some time, and for me, it wasn't so much trying to get up on the board. It was really just trying to manage those waves. It was really my first time in an ocean that had wakes and waves that come and push you, and the intervals between the waves are so short. So as soon as I get over, I get a mouthful of salt water, and then catch my breath, boom, another one. And then I have to break through that to get to the other side, break on through to the other side. And then I can relax. But I never could on the second day. On the second day, I basically went out there for 45 minutes and just battled with the waves. First day was actually really good. Got up about 6 times and actually got to kind of shred a bit, which was really cool. And I love it. I really want to pick that up as a sport. I'm a big fan of board sports, so definitely want to get into that. And then, the following week went down to Kelowna, the Okanagan, met up with some friends, and we headed over to Maple Lake just to kind of shut off and get into outside of nature. And the great thing about Maple Lake is you get no cellular data, so you really just you're there, you know? So I had a good time just hanging out with the crew, playing spike ball, hanging on the beach. The water there is amazing, fabulous. And did some reading and some meditation. And I think it's so good that you get out there and you kind of just quiet the mind a bit. And I think I talk about this in every podcast. It's the importance of going inward as opposed to outward sometimes. And that means kind of being in a place where you're isolated, because it forces you to look inside and enjoy pretty much the outer world. When you look inside, and really your insides reflect your outsides. At least that's how I've learned, and especially kind of 2020 with everything that's going on with the pandemic, these fires. Right now, it's so smoky in Vancouver, and I think in California, it's pretty much bright orange. There's so many things going, so many like key individuals that are passing away, like celebrities and stuff, and just like shocks a lot of people, and it's a weird time. So, it's so important to be able to manage that. And then going kind of with that pandemic to speak on the isolation that happened. I don't think very many people were prepared, because, it forces people to be indoors. And then, of course, you have on top of that the kind of the economic crisis where a lot of people lost their jobs. Now, CERB or whatever it's called, that was a huge benefit for a lot of people, and it's great for them. But at the same time, you're being forced to sit inside, and I don't think people were prepared to be forced into sitting with themselves and understanding what it's like to be by yourself. And I think that can happen, or that can cause some bad mental health. Fortunately for me, I was building my muscle when it came to doing meditation. I'm closing into I probably just over a year now of pretty much daily meditation. And so when it came time for the pandemic to come inside, it was like, perfect. I have more time to work on myself and meditate and actually strengthen what's going on up here. Whereas a lot of people kind of got freaked out. They had a rush of anxiety when they're hanging out in their house, and they don't know what to do with that. But this is the perfect time to kind of confront that and face that demon. I think Jordan Peterson says, Joseph Campbell says, the cave you fear holds the treasure you seek. So it's so important that even if you're fearful of something, to face that and deal with it. And something that meditation has taught me is that you can look at these emotions that rise and find out why they're rising and why they're causing you all this pain, and it can really help digest that because you go through it. And I think something like post-traumatic stress disorder, the way to get rid of it is to actually relive that moment. And they're doing a bunch of tests with like MDMA and like mushrooms that help you face those because it makes you less fearful of confronting these scary things. And once you go through it, you get a perspective as like, hey, I got through that. I lived. I made it through that experience, and I'm alive still. So why don't be fearful of it? Because public speaking, for example, most people are terrified of it, and I am as well. But when you get out there and you do that and you get through the jitters and you start talking, you speak, at the end you feel so relieved because you did something that was scary. And that's such an important thing, is like actually do those things that you fear, face them, because once you face the fear, you get through it and you're still alive at the end of it, and boom, you now have a new perspective. You're not scared of it anymore. It gives you confidence, and then you can navigate life in a much more smooth way. And that's at least how I've been seeing it, is when I have that intuition of being fearful of something, it's like, okay, that's something I need to tackle, because if I don't, it's always going to be right next door. It's always going to be knocking on the door saying, hey, I'm still here. You're still scared of me. Go face that. And I was kind of thinking about it. I was thinking about when I have a son or a daughter, and it's almost like, I think it was from the perspective of me having a son, because I want a son first. But, of course you can't choose that. And what it was I was thinking of me being an adult, and I was going into the room, and my kid was terrified of the closet because there's a monster there. And then I was thinking, okay, what would be a good way to raise my kid around this? Because I don't want him to be scared of this. I don't want to just show him that there's nothing to be scared of. I want him to come to the terms of facing the fear. So I kind of like role played in my mind. I'm like, you know what, this is what I do. I dress myself like the kid would be scared, and I would have like armor to be like a knight, and I would have armor for myself and armor for him, and we would role play and be like, we're the knight in shining armor, and we need to save the princess or slay the dragon, and the dragon is the metaphor of the monsters in the door. And then it would be role playing. It's like, come on, Alexander, whatever his name is, you're the king. You need to confront this dragon and teach him that like he might be fearful, but he uses the courage to like open that door. And then when he opens the door, he defeats the metaphorical dragon because he opens up, and that's what his fear is, like the fear of death when he opens the door. And then he opens the door, and then he finds out that he got to the other side and he's still alive. And I think that teaches, I was just thinking about how this could probably teach your kid to have the confidence and the courage to face your fears, because now he's gone and done it himself, and he found out, okay, there's no dragon, or I've conquered that dragon by opening the door. Now I'm not so scared of the demons, the dragons, and I know that the way to feel better about myself is to open that door or face your fears and get through it. And I don't know if that's the best way of parenting. I was just thinking about that, and it put a big smile on my face. It made me really excited to think that was a cool tactic that I could use to help raise my kid to be confident in himself, and to realize that like life is challenging, and there's going to be things that are going to be there to knock you down, and that it's so important that to have faith in yourself to go and try to face that challenge. And then, of course, if you fail, is just to get back up and continue, because it's about reiterating and trying again and learning again and just trying new things to help you get to that other side. And, whatever my son or daughter wants to do, I want them to be able to go at it without fear of failing, fear of others' opinions, understanding that their opinion is not their opinion, but their gut instinct is right. And if they're passionate about something, go for it. If they get knocked down, don't stop, get back. And I want to teach them at a young age, because I know for myself, that wasn't something I necessarily had that skill set or that muscle memory around, failing and getting back up. And, I was relatively raised in a competitive environment. I played a bunch of sports, and I knew that you had to keep grinding and doing that, but it was never the perspective or the wisdom to have when it's like, oh, no, I'm not as good as I think I am, give up. And I never really gave up on certain things, but there's definitely certain areas in my life when I was younger, mainly in the middle school age, when I would like play basketball, and I had someone that was better than me, and I was like fairly confident in my ability, and I was like a point guard, and I thought I was the shit, and I probably was. And, I had another guy come onto the team who was a bit better, so he's actually giving me a run for my money, and we just did not click with each other, and ended up actually quitting because of that, because of the coaching, and then of course the other guy competing for my position. And now I look back and it's like I pretty much gave up and I quit. And it would have been so interesting if I just kept pushing through, and then I just started practicing more. And I know so many parents pressure you just to practice harder and harder. And I guess, that's not, for some reason, when you're younger, you don't necessarily have that perspective that they have. They understand that you need to work hard at these things and put in the time and the effort to be better every day. But I think when it comes off, you're fairly rebellious at that time. You don't want to listen to your parents. They think they know what's best for you, but at the same time, you're following something. You're influenced by your environment. For me, it was like, I'm just going to snowboard. I don't want to do all these sports anymore. I was just getting into partying and all these things. So my environment took me away from this work ethic of sports and being a better self. And yeah, I think it's just, now looking back, it's easy to talk about because it's perspective and I've gone through it. And for me, it's just like, how can I teach my kid in a reasonable way to not have him have to come to that on his own terms in the future? How do I raise a kid to be aware of these things when he's younger and just to have that self-esteem built up to continue to try, continue to work, reiterate till they pass something? And then as well as just to go into your interests and fully dive into your interests and have no problem to go into your interest, find that you don't like it, and then switch off. I think we tie that so much to ADD and millennials that they'll go into something and then they don't commit and then they fall off. And I'm kind of starting to think that that's not necessarily the case. I believe it's just not something you're interested in. You think you are at the time, you do it, you enjoy it. And at the same time, there's of course that barrier of skill set. There's the learning curve you have to get through before the actual value behind it happens. So I understand that you got to get through that learning curve. But at the same time, if your heart's not in it, you should listen to that. And if it's something that does fit well, then continue to push at it and it'll probably get better. So playing guitar, there's a huge learning curve there. But once you can actually play chords and play some notes, it's going to be such a better experience because you're making music. Whereas before, that first year even, you're sitting here trying to play the chords and they suck and your fingers are hurting. If you're playing enough, they're bleeding and it just doesn't sound right. You get pissed off because of the ting, and it's demotivating because you feel like you're not getting better, but it's something that you have to just do. And then there's something that clicks, and everyone's learning curve is somewhere different, right? It might take someone a year, it might take someone a week. So it's just something that we have to stick forward to. And yeah, I'm trying to figure that out, trying to learn that. And that really kind of coincides with the podcast thing. It's I did 2 podcasts, technically 3, didn't post the third one. So I did the podcast about 2 weeks ago, uploaded to YouTube, didn't end up making it public. And now I'm sitting down here on a Saturday, I think mid-September, and September 12th, and recording. And, fell off those 3 weeks that I didn't post. And it's that thing where it's if I don't do this, then I'm just going to drop the skill set completely. And I have all the software. I got the Adobe Premiere. I record. I got the mic. I got this great camera. And it's this. It would be a shame not to develop this skill set while I'm here and to keep doing it. And if it is something that I like, which so far I'm really enjoying, and there's so much that can be learned here. And it's really, for me, it is public speaking in the sense I'm posting this. I have the comfort of my home, no one listening and judging, but after I post it, I'm sure that people will check it out and have their opinions of it. And that's technically, to me, public speaking, especially in a digital age where digital age plus the pandemic, you're not going to be reaching an audience of 10,000 in a stadium very much these days. And hopefully soon we can do that. But we're now at the point where digitally I can speak to millions of people just through posting on the internet. Now, my goal is not necessarily for any of that. My goal right now is to improve my craft of speaking into a mic and speaking to a camera and just having better quality information that people can resonate and hopefully get inspired through that. But that's kind of more of the next step, is get to the point where I can actually speak and have a place of not influence, maybe the influence is the word, but a place of influence to say that people come back and be like, wow, that makes so much more sense. That gives me some good perspective on my life. And that's really what it is. It's I'm growing through this, and you're learning what you're watching me grow or listening to me grow as we go through with the podcast. And that's really the essential goal of it, as well as it's overcoming the fear of going on a microphone and then posting it. It's I didn't post that third podcast because I was like, oh, I'm not really not necessarily happy about it, but I just didn't feel like it was good. And then I also saw that the color correction was wrong, so I was lazy and I didn't want to put it back into Adobe Premiere to edit it and fix it up. And that's my part. That's my fault. Sorry, and to not do that. But at the same time, I don't think it was the quality I wanted to share and showcase. But yeah, so other than that, this morning I had a very productive morning. Went for a skateboard, reset, came back home. Actually, back to skateboarding, landed a couple new tricks today. It's like, when you wake up and you make your bed, you've already won. So pretty much skateboarding in the morning at 7 a.m., 6 a.m., it's like, that's really it. You land one trick. Hopefully you don't get hurt. And you land that new trick you've been learning or trying to land, and boom, you start your day off. Came home, shower, meditation, went over to the bookstore. So I skated over to the bookstore, picked up the new book, Dune, which is going to be a feature film in December. I've always had it on my list, but I've never, it's a sci-fi film. I can't remember who recommended it to me. It was like an interview I watched, and I'm thinking it was Elon Musk. Can't remember. Maybe it was Jim Morrison. I don't know. Anyways, I've been meaning to read it for a while, and then I found out that there's a movie coming out, and it's with Timothy Chalamet, or however you say his last name, and he's a stud. So it's like, okay, I got to read this book prior to watching the movie, of course, because movies can't encapsulate all the information that goes through on the book. And then plus, if the book's good, I want to be able to read through that, and I don't want to just, because if I watch a movie first, I don't feel like I need to read the book. And that's the thing with Lord of the Rings, was I love the trilogy. It's probably one of the greatest trilogies of all time, next to Austin Powers Austin Powers trilogy. But after watching Lord of the Rings, I don't necessarily have a desire to read the books. And I know that would change if I sit down and read it. But there's so many books that are on the go that, like, to sit down and watch through or read 3 books right now of that density is just like, I feel like I read different books right now. So in the future, I'll probably read the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But, this Dune book, even on the back of the cover, it talks about, I haven't read a novel this good since Lord of the Rings, or something along those lines. So it's obviously being made a movie, so that is an indicator that it's obviously attractive and it's got a good storytelling. But I was reading the back of it, and I'm not super familiar with what it's about. Actually not at all. What I think it's about is it's kind of a representation of the future, is what he was going for, and it's about where, like, people are fighting over water and your basic necessities because we've kind of eliminated it, and there's a bit of mysticism involved. So I'm all over that. So really, after recording this, I'm probably going to dive in and do a bit of reading, check that out. It's pretty thick, I think, and I didn't know there were so many books. So apparently there's 5 books made by Frank Herbert, and then he passed away. I think 5 or 6. Frank Herbert passes away, and his son continues the work, and there's so many more books. I thought it was just Dune trilogy, but I'm wrong. So, if it's really good, then I got myself a nice fiction, sci-fi, fantasy novel to go through. And I haven't read much of that since pretty much Pendragon, which was, if you're familiar with Pendragon, I love you. It was a 10-book series, fantastic. It was for, it's a teen fiction novel, but it covered some cool things and cool topics. I personally think that they were the ones that invented Hunger Games, because there's one of the books it's called Quillen Games, and I think that was before Hunger Games came out, but very similar in the aspect where they all fight and the last one, like a battle royale, or the last one standing wins the championship. So those books were awesome, Pendragon, and then it goes into like the last. Oh, actually, I don't want to spoil it. Well, I will, kind of, but in the end, like the last book, it becomes they transcend into like different energy essentially, and they realize they're not humans. I almost want to read the book again, because I remember staying up almost all night when I finished that last book, and I remember finishing the last page, lying in bed, being like, "Fuck, damn, it's over." That was like a little tear down my eye, and like it was probably like 11:30, and so I go up to the stairs to go wake my mom because I can't sleep. So I just wanted to talk about the book, and it affected me so deeply. But that's when you know it's a good book. You finish it, and it just hits home, and you have to just sit on it and just reminisce that it's over. But you're happy it happened, And it's that's the beautiful thing about a good novel. So yeah, I'm pretty interested in diving into Dune. Right now, I'm reading a book called The Shahnameh, which is the Persian Book of Kings, and it was a gift from my good boy Behi, or Baruz. And it's all about Persian culture. So it's an epic poem. It's one of the longest epic poems. Came out in like 1300s, and it's translated to English, so it's not necessarily like very much rhyme scheme, but it tells you all the stories of all their great heroes and all the kings that go through, and it's just so many moral lessons with it, and it's just such a good book to read. I'm loving every second of it, because they're such digestible stories, but they have so much meaning behind them with the heroes, and it shows you like the king gave birth to like 3 sons. They were all great, but when he divided Persia, he had his youngest son have Persia, and then the 2 other sons, the older ones, had China and whatever's west to Iran, somewhere around there. And then these older brothers, they were like, well, why does the youngest son get Persia? Why does he get this? And then they grow jealous of him, and then they come and attack and murder the youngest son because of their jealousy for their father for giving the holy Persian land to the youngest son. And then also the king was like, well, this is the reason I gave it to the youngest son, because you guys are so caught up in such stupid games, when really you guys should be all working together for a greater goal, and striving towards either growing your boundaries and getting more land, or helping your kingdom at that time. And again, I think that really translates to what's going on now, is we have all these borders like US and Canada and South America, whatever. And it's like, what's the point in having different countries? We need to all work together on a global scale, and now we can be intergalactic, because now we're actually going past that. We're all so quick to communicate. I can just speak to someone from China in like a second. And if that's the case, we need to all work together and now work as a group, and then expand and explore, because that's what humans do. We explore the unknown. We want to understand that. We want to seek knowledge. So for us to do that, we need to all work together, all put our resources together, and go out. So world peace, yes, boom. That's a no-brainer. Of course, we should get to that point, and I think we will in a few hundred years. Hopefully, like no wars, and the wars will be on with the aliens up there. Who knows? But I think once we start expanding, we get on Mars, and now we're looking at other planets and being able to travel in a much quicker way throughout the galaxy. We'll run into different obstacles, and it's going to be more like world versus that. And I hope it's not the case. I mean, I think war is stupid, of course, and I don't think the idea of battling and going to war is going to make sense, because it just divides more. But again, who knows what the alien race does? I mean, they might fucking fuck us up, or well, most likely they're going to fuck us up. If they know about us, they're definitely more intelligent than us, because we don't know about them. Or I guess we do, technically. We have UFOs, and that's been proven. It's been declassified, which is super strange. I'm curious to where that is going. It's I'm excited to see if they release more information, or we get contacted soon. So I'm a believer of it, and I don't even think it's a conspiracy at this point. I think I feel like it's almost ignorant to think that there's no aliens, because there's us and this planet, and we already know how great and massive the galaxy is and the universe is. So the odds of there being one, yes. So, and then pretty much on the same topic, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to what Elon Musk is doing with Neuralink, which is essentially the chip in the brain. I'm definitely putting that in. So I'm curious to what you guys think on that, but I'm definitely putting on the chip when it comes available, because he did say in the Joe Rogan podcast that it's like, you're either going to grow symbiotic with these robots, or you're basically going to be an ape in the perspective of this symbiotic AI in a human brain. And it makes sense too. And it's interesting to see how much of what Elon Musk has done that Nikola Tesla was talking about with electricity and vibration and all that stuff. And it's definitely different than what maybe Nikola Tesla expected to come out of it. But Elon Musk took that, and it's like, it's basically putting a chip in your brain and sending electrical nodes and like triggering certain things. And it's going to fix your eyesight. He said it's going to be better eyesight. You'll be able to hear again. And from the sounds of it, you'll be able to heal paraplegics, quadriplegics. We're basically getting to a point where we'll live forever. I don't know, maybe not forever, but I think there's this, I can't remember what it was, but I was in this book, and it's talking about how we're hitting a point where we're going to be, the technology of our life expectancy is growing quicker than we can die or something like that. It might not be exactly it, but we're getting to a point where medical and all these things that we're doing can like heal us and keep us alive and like slow down the rate or slowing down the rate of death or your cells dying quicker than something like that. I don't know. I need to look into that again, but because I can't remember the word for it. But it was interesting. We're getting to that point where healthcare is getting so good, and I'm thinking 10, 20 years, it's going to be like everything's going to be fixed. And I mean, I've been banking on it. I've had these back problems for so long. I've been hoping we're going to have something that I can just inject myself, which is technically stem cells, and not have back pain anymore. And then, you know, of course, if your eyesight goes, like how cool it would be to have a GUI in your eyesight and you can just pull up screens and search shit on the web and like, you know, looking at somebody and then you can like find out their features. Okay, green eyes, brown hair, like how much she weighs or he weighs. And like, I don't know. I mean, that'd be weird, but just to think of the technology that can come from that is so crazy. You know, smart homes, just like touching your glass panel and like all this shit happens, or you walk into the house and your AI already knows your this body temperature, so it cools or heats up the house for you. It automatically dispenses your coffee because it knows you're coming home from work just because of machine learning, and it charges your Tesla autopilot, pulls into the garage, already plugs itself in, door opens for you, you walk out. Yeah, the washroom floor is already heated for you when you go there to take your poop or your shower, and the oven's already, you know, maybe they already slid like something in the oven for you to get the things going, and you know the possibilities are endless, and it's just a exciting time to be alive. I think they say this probably every generation or every 100 years. They're like, we're in such a different time, so much technological advancement, and just a change of so many things at such an exponential rate. It's astounding. And even looking now, it's, you know, in 2010 you would tell it cost you so much for this to have this kind of computer that runs this, and it could barely run like VR for example. Now it's so accessible, and we're getting to the point where we're going to be able to do so many things. It's for so little, like costs will lower because of Moore's law with the technology exponential curve, whatever it is, and just even having these 4K cameras, and we're already looking at 8K games and movies, and it's like I don't even know what that looks like. Can my eyes even have a good enough resolution for that? I don't even know if that makes sense, but it's exciting times, and I'm super excited to see how the next 5-10 years come. At the same time, it makes a lot of things that we do currently seem redundant because we know this is in the future and it's coming. So it's like, why do I do these things? But at the same time, too, it's like, well, I'm already falling behind all of this technology and I want to keep up with it. It's like, even I feel old now. I load up TikTok and I can't make an edit. I can't edit and use that shit for shit. And these kids are super into the culture and they know it all. And not to say it's necessarily a good thing. It's definitely can be very toxic if you don't use TikTok the right way, and that's with any social media. But I'm even falling behind. It's like, am I going to be like my grandpa where he can't even navigate his phone to phone somebody or touchscreen? I hope not. I want to stay in tune with it, but I just think with age, you just got to separate it. You separate from it, and you're not really influenced by it because you're not around it, right? And the kids usually depict the culture, so yeah, it's a crazy time to be alive, I think, to say the least. And then, of course, with 2020 going on, with everything that's happening, it's weird. It's like, for me, I've very compared it to a lot of people's consciousness, as far out, is in a bit of turmoil. So we're starting to see that manifest into reality. Now, that's out there. I know that sounds really weird, but I think some people understand what I'm saying. But we've hit this point where all the collective thoughts of an anger that we've held towards not basically suppressing everything, and now we're like letting it all out, and that's why we're seeing fires, coronavirus, and all these things that are taking over and really showcasing like the evil works of the world. And I do prophesize a couple years back that this was basically the next 70s, where you can hear it in the music. You can, psilocybin and psychedelics are on the rise. They're doing trials for it for people to do it legally. And that's the same thing with the 60s, 70s. And then the music's all about held towards not basically suppressing everything, and now we're like letting it all out, and that's why we're seeing fires, coronavirus, and all these things that are taking over and really showcasing like the evil works of the world. And I do prophesize a couple years back that this was basically the next 70s, where you can hear it in the music. You can, psilocybin and psychedelics are on the rise. They're doing trials for it for people to do it legally. And that's the same thing with the 60s, 70s. And then the music's all about justice and social justice, no wars and all those things. So it's definitely coming back to that point where we're heading into the 70s, which is funny because it almost is history repeats itself, which is necessarily the case. And I don't think we should necessarily believe that either, because we should be able to move past it and think more futuristic and think about how we can do that. If we think there's world peace already, then there'll be, if we all think that, then yes, then there's world peace. But right now we don't think that is. So, let me know if you agree. But, I think I'm going to rope it up here. I think that was a nice chat, nice, good old podcast. If you enjoyed that chat and the things I talked about, please leave a comment, send me some feedback, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, share this with your friends. Let me know what you think. Again, love you. Peace. Take care, and we'll see you hopefully next week or the week after.